Got Eric Scopel on the line from Duck Territory 247 Sports. Head on over there. Check out Eric's work. Duck Territory will have you set up with Oregon football and basketball and spring practice coming up soon, in which people were anticipating seeing Trayshawn Holden on the field. But
yeah,
very unfortunate situation there. We hope justice is served. Weapons charge been dismissed from the program. And so no Trayshawn Holden. Chase Code has moved on as well. And you had mentioned Dante Thornton, who caught 17 balls at over 21 yards per catch, has moved on as well.
yeah. And the concern there is that three names you mentioned there were all people who played the same position. And when Coda graduated this last year, he was the starter for basically the entire year in 2022. The hope was, okay, now here's an opportunity for Dante Thornton. But Thornton, I think, saw a better opportunity at Tennessee, took that opportunity. Oregon went and landed one of the top outside receivers they could in the portal, and Trayshawn Holden, who started a handful of games a year ago at Alabama, was, I think, maybe I don't want to say the most productive player, but certainly showed his ability to score touchdowns. I think had 6 last year, a couple the year before. So somebody who would have been capable of winning some battles on the outside for Bo Nix. And as you said, unfortunate news came out of Eugene just 24 hours or 48 hours ago when we learned he was arrested on, as you said, a weapons charge. Some pretty serious. There's 3 charges, and all 3 of them, none of them are like you can really overlook. And obviously, Dan Lanning acted swiftly. This is the first player, I think, that Oregon has had to dismiss in 4 seasons. So hasn't happened a lot. This is the first time under Lanning, but I think they made the. I obviously I don't know all the details, but you hear charges of that severity, and you kind of figure it's probably not something you can overlook, and especially for a player who's just arrived on campus. So, yeah, it was a short stay for Holden. He was here probably less than 2 months before being dismissed, and now they'll have to go figure out what they want to do next, because I think the plan was that he was going to be one of their starting outside receivers opposite of Troy Franklin, who had an awesome sophomore season this last year. Franklin really exploded to be one of the better receivers in the conference, was a second team all conference receiver in a league that had fantastic talent out wide across the board. I mean, almost every team has players that look to have NFL futures, or at least were very productive college players, and he was deemed one of the better ones. And I think Oregon fans feel really good about Troy Franklin. Chris Hudson returns. He was the starting slot receiver a year ago. Kind of an up and down year. I think people probably are a little disappointed he didn't find the end zone at all, didn't kind of maybe have as much of an explosive impact as a pass catcher, but certainly a player with experience that you can rely on. And then they went out and added Tez Johnson, Bo Nix's adopted younger brother, who was at Troy for the last few years, and again has been very productive. And I hate to keep mentioning it because Dan Lanning doesn't necessarily ascribe to PFF being a very valuable way of assessing players, but Tez Johnson was Pro Football Focus's second best graded receiver nationally in 2022. So there's some positive things behind him. So, they are now without Holden. They'll have to kind of figure that out. He was, as I said, Oregon plays I think this has kind of now become sort of the traditional setup at receiver. You've got an X receiver out wide, a Z receiver out wide, and then a slot receiver. Troy Franklin is an X receiver. As we said, Coda was a Z last year. Holden was also a Z. That made kind of logical sense that he would line up there. They have to figure out who fits there. I think you've got a pretty clear battle between Hudson and Johnson now in the slot. The names at Z, a couple of guys to know: 5-star receiver Jerry Dickey was the second highest rated receiver in the country this last signing class. He'll be here on campus shortly. The hope is maybe he can develop and make an impact right away. Kyler Casper was a highly regarded receiver recruit the year before, who played a little bit this past year, but used a redshirt year. That's another name to maybe know there. And then I wouldn't be surprised if they look at hitting the portal to try to find another player with some more experience, because you look at the room right now, and outside of Franklin and Hudson, and I guess you can throw Tez Johnson in there because he has experience elsewhere, there really isn't a ton of playing experience amongst the receivers on this roster right now.
Tez Johnson caught 56 passes last season at Troy, 141 for his 3-year career. Terrence Ferguson, is he back at tight end?
He sure is, and he's basically the only player back. And this is I think this is the other position along with receiver now, where I wouldn't be surprised when we get to May that they look to add somebody. And of course, those who maybe aren't familiar with the schedule and the way it's laid out, players can no longer transfer at least right now and land at schools with immediate eligibility, they can again do so. I think it's May 5th, maybe it's the first week of May sometime. The transfer portal window opens back up, and I think Oregon will look to be buyers at the receiver position, and certainly at tight end because, as you said, Terrence Ferguson is back. Had a strong sophomore season. I believe he had 6 touchdown receptions. Um, probably a little bit better of a passer than a blocker, but certainly a capable player. The issue is that they were in a bit of a timeshare a year ago, and 2 of the guys that he was sharing some reps with have also decided to, or not also, but have also decided to leave, and that's Patrick Herbert, sorry, Maliki Madavau and Cam McCormick. Patrick Herbert is back. So, they had 4 guys they liked a year ago. 2 of them are gone. 2 of them are back. They added a highly regarded prep out of the state of Idaho in Kenyon Sadiq, who I think we all anticipate playing early and having a role. This is a very well developed player, kind of in the comparison people will use is the Brock Bowers role, where he's maybe more of a hybrid receiver than a true tight end, but he's certainly somebody who can cause mismatch problems. He's about 6'3", 225, 230 pounds with track speed and impressive athletic tools. So Sadiq's a guy people like, but how much can you rely upon him, Ferguson, and Patrick Herbert, who had some moments a year ago, but has missed most of his career due to injury. I think you need to add another player there to kind of feel confident in your group. So I would imagine Drew Maringer, the tight end position coach, is going to be pretty active looking around the country to see who enters that portal after the spring practice window.